This is RTV6 News at 11, working for you.
Demonstrations are planned in Carmel this weekend following comments about Black Lives Matter protests made by someone considered a leader in the community.
A Catholic pastor posting on his church's website compared protesters to, quote, maggots and parasites. Well, the post has since been deleted, but a group called Carmel Against Racial Injustice tells RTV6's Cameron Riddle they want to see a change in their city.
These are the faces pushing for change and accountability in Carmel after a local Catholic pastor referred to Black Lives Matter demonstrators as maggots and parasites.
When I tell you we were vibrating with emotion, I'm not exaggerating. I mean, we were shaking. We were so appalled and upset by the words and hateful rhetoric.
The rhetoric comes from Father Theodore Rothrock of St. Elizabeth Seton Catholic Church in a since-deleted weekly message on the church's website. Brianna Hargrove, Kayla Seymour, Ashton Spilker, and James Ziegler are four of the founding members of the recently created group Carmel Against Racial Injustice. We caught up with three of the four tonight, all of them demanding Father Rothrock be removed from the church due to his comments, which they say are not only out of touch, but flat out wrong.
100% of all the protests that have taken place in Carmel have been peaceful. So as a leader in this community to make those statements, not only are they troubling, they're completely misguided and have no basis in fact.
The Black Lives Matter protests have heavily been focused in downtown Indianapolis, but these Carmel residents say racial injustice doesn't stop at 96th Street. That's why they plan to bring peaceful protests to the sidewalk right outside the church this Sunday. A nod to Dr. King, despite Father Rothrock's own words questioning if the civil rights leader would support the Black Lives Matter movement.
Absolutely. He would be marching in the streets. And I think he would be appalled with today's climate.
These civil rights leaders of today say Rothrock's words are proof that the city they grew up in has a lot of work to do.
We want, like I said, lead by example and give off that good representation that our society needs and that the youth can look up to when we don't have representation where it should be currently.
In Carmel, Cameron Riddle, RTV6.
And demonstrators plan to protest for almost 12 hours this Sunday while Mass is happening inside the church starting at 7 a.m. Carmel Mayor Jim Brainerd is a member of that church. We reached out to his office for comment this afternoon and so far have not received a response. The Bishop of the Diocese of Lafayette in Indiana said Father Rothrock should issue a clarification of the post. Father Rothrock has not responded to WRTV's request for comment.
RTV6 and our partners at Radio 1 are joining the conversation about racism and racial inequality. A conversation on race connecting Central Indiana will feature a variety of panelists from the community. You can submit a question by going to our website, theindychannel.com. Watch the virtual town hall at 7 p.m. on Thursday right here on RTV6 and on our digital platforms. It will also be simulcast on 3 Radio 1 stations.
Now to the forecast. Temperatures are in the 70s at this hour. Storm Team 6 Chief Meteorologist Kevin Gregory is tracking some hot days ahead. Kevin.
And at least it's dry right now. Last night was an active night, loud with heavy rainfall. The chances of rain at your house overnight very low. We may see some patchy fog, especially if you had rain during the afternoon hours today. It's what's not on radar that tells the story tonight. Can't rule out an overnight shower thunderstorm. The chances is 20%. Tomorrow, they bubble up again in the afternoon, heat and humidity. They won't be as widespread, and it's the beginning of the end as far as our daily chance for thunderstorms. We'll start to move on and focus on temperatures. We're at 80 already by late morning tomorrow, when we'll start a string of 90-degree days coming up.
Indiana's hands-free law goes into effect tomorrow for drivers. Working for You, we're explaining exactly what that means for drivers. It will be illegal to hold and use your phone behind the wheel. You will have to use hands-free devices like Bluetooth, a headset, or a dashboard mount. Kelly Sire has been advocating for this type of law for years. A distracted driver hit and killed her husband in 2011.
I just don't want that, any other family to go through that. And if this law somebody can be driving along and think about either my story or someone else they know, or just that they don't want to get a ticket and put their phone down, then that's amazing. And that's the reason that it was so important to me.
State police say they plan to help educate drivers in the coming months as people get used to this new law. Troopers will likely start writing tickets later this year. A state law that would effectively ban panhandling in downtown Indianapolis will not start tomorrow as planned. This afternoon, a federal judge blocked the law from taking effect. It would make it illegal to panhandle within 50 feet of a parking meter, parking garage, ATM, restaurant entrances or exits, and public monuments. The ACLU sued over the law in April. You can read the judge's reasoning behind the decision by clicking on this story at our website, theindychannel.com.
18 weeks to go until the November election as local election officials work on ways to make voting easier and safer for Hoosiers. We're bringing you stories about how to make sure your voice is heard at the ballot box. Tonight, RTV6's Cornelius Soccer shows you how one group is breaking down misconceptions about who has the right to vote in our state.
What do we want? Justice! When do we want it? Now!
Protests for racial justice and police reform have been front and center over the last several weeks, calling for change. But Joyce David with Project Leah tells me these protests can only go so far.
How long are we going to protest? You have to change the system from within the system.
And the way to change the system, Joyce says, is by voting.
The people who really have the power to better our lives, to change the justice system, it's all in the power to vote.
But people who have spent time in the justice system may not realize they still have the right to vote here in Indiana.
I was incarcerated for 5.5 years. And during that time that no individual ever came in and said, hey, your voting rights can be reestablished, upon your release from prison.
Through her work with Project Leah, Joyce wants to pass along, here in Indiana, you have the right to vote even if you've been locked up. The ACLU of Indiana is also fighting against low voter turnout with their Yes You Can Vote campaign, hoping to reach folks who have been incarcerated. For Joyce, seeing organizations and people talk about this issue brings her hope. Hope that more people who've been impacted by the justice system will feel comfortable asking questions when it comes time for them to exercise their right to vote.
It sounds corny and it sounds cliche. Knowledge is power.
Working for you, Cornelius Hawker, RTV6.
Tomorrow, state officials will give an update on how COVID-19 is impacting Indiana in their weekly address on the pandemic. And on Thursday, Marion County leaders will discuss the next steps for reopening. According to the State Department of Health, 2,448 people have died from the virus in Indiana. 16 of the newly reported deaths happened between May 20th and Sunday. More than 484,000 people have been tested for the virus. Around 9% have tested positive. More states are scrambling to shut down beaches, bars, and other businesses that were back up and running as COVID cases spike in their communities. ABC's Ramina Puga explains how the crisis in certain states is impacting others across the country.
The New York tri-state area, which worked hard to battle back the coronavirus outbreak, now slapping a 14-day quarantine order to visitors from 16 hotspot states. California is on that list, one of the several states hitting pause or reversing course on reopening.
If you're not going to stay home and you're not going to wear masks in public, we have to enforce, and we will.
Arizona with an increasing number of COVID patients in ICU beds, activating crisis standards at its hospitals. LabCorp says it's experiencing a nationwide test shortage due to the resurgence in Arizona, Texas, and Florida, where numbers have been rising and several major cities have only now made masks mandatory.
Just wear the darn mask.
Some studies say the virus may be spread just by talking, noting people can release as many particles through speech as a cough.
Stay healthy.
The demonstration shows how wearing a facial covering can reduce spread by some estimates up to 50%.
Stay healthy.
Those CDC guidelines recommending simple containment measures have become politicized. President Trump moving ahead with his 4th of July celebration at Mount Rushmore, where no masks or social distancing will be required. Joe Biden blasting the president for it.
We can't continue half wearing masks and half rejecting science. We can't continue half with a plan and half just hoping for the best.
Even Vice President Pence and his allies on Fox News are now urging Americans to wear them.
I think they work. And I said, especially if I wear a mask and it opens up baseball, concerts, NFL football, I'd rather wear the mask.
Joe Biden says if elected, he would place an immediate call to Dr. Anthony Fauci, who this week said he would not be surprised if our cases go up to 100,000 a day if we don't turn things around. In Colorado, Romina Puga, ABC News.
New at 11, dozens of people gathered this evening to honor and mourn a 16-year-old Franklin Central High School student. Ella Major died in a crash over the weekend. Friends and family met at the scene of Saturday's accident on Fry Road near Shelbyville Road on the southeast side. Investigators say the car Major was riding in went off the road, crashed into a tree, and went into a retention pond. Another teen suffered critical injuries. Major's sister says she is grateful for the community's support.
But my sister obviously means so much to people, and I can't thank everybody enough for coming out today, and I love you so much. People always ask, like, what can we do? We love to hear stories, see pictures, because Ella was just such a bright light. She loved everybody.
The crash has sparked a growing push to add guardrails to the curve where the accident happened. We reached out to the city-county councilor who represents the area. Brian Mowry tells us he talked to the director of the Department of Public Works in an effort to help jumpstart efforts to add guardrails. DPW engineers must examine the site before making a recommendation. We will continue to follow this process.
There's so many opportunities. You can go in so many directions. You just need to get in.
Life in the military may be different than you imagine. Coming up here, 3 men share their experiences as the Army makes a major push to recruit thousands of potential soldiers.
An event that will look a lot like the Indiana State Fair will take over the Fairgrounds this summer. We'll explain next.
Made for. This is RTV6 News at 11, working for you.
Later this summer, you'll find carnival games, midway rides, and festival food at the Indiana State Fairgrounds. Yes, the State Fair is still canceled, but a new event called the Fairgrounds Fun Park is taking its place. The carnival goes from July 31st through September 7th. The company behind the attraction says health and safety precautions will be taken, including hand sanitizer stations around the fairgrounds, plexiglass shields at food vendors, and additional disinfecting procedures. For more info about the event, go to theindychannel.com and click on this story.
Well, it's official. There will be no joy at Victory Field this summer. Today, the Indianapolis Indians announced the 2020 season is canceled. They are among more than 100 minor league baseball teams that will not play this year. After contentious negotiations, Major League Baseball agreed on a 60-game season that will start later this summer, but a deal could not be made with the minors. Indians general manager Randy Lewandowski says this is a tough blow for players and coaches.
They're going to miss out on 2020, and they miss a year of their career. Their careers are only so long, and we feel really bad for those guys that aren't on the taxi squad, that aren't going to be in big league camp, and there's a substantial amount of them that were with us last year and were projected to be with us this year too.
New premium seating at Victory Field was set to be unveiled this year. It was added during the off-season. The team described it as the most significant upgrade ever at the ballpark.
Kevin, I was sitting outside this evening, and it was just so nice. It would have been great for a baseball game, but it was nice to just get outside this evening with a little bit cooler temperatures, but those are going to change.
And that's always one of the highlights at Victory Field, right? You could go to the baseball game, see the first fireworks show, and then see the big city show afterwards. No fireworks overnight tonight. It will be calm. There may be an isolated shower, thunder shower, but 99.9 of us stayed dry. Okay, what had been a very dry month has turned above average. We have almost 4.5 inches of rain in the rain gauge now after our latest contribution, which came overnight last night. Rain chance tomorrow, 30%. And then finally, as we get to Thursday, Friday, and the 4th of July, rain chances very low through that stretch. They start to return on Sunday. As far as the humidity, it's noticeable every day. It backs off a little bit from where we've been, but it's either humid or very humid, however you want to describe that. And we get consistency in the temperatures. The rain chance lowers, we get a little more sunshine around, and the temperature climbs. should be in the low 90s, really 6 out of the next 7 days. I think tomorrow is the day that we miss the mark. 83 by noon, afternoon high temperature 87. Again, interrupted in spots, but I think fewer locations seeing thunderstorms tomorrow afternoon. And the humidity not quite as high, but still heavy rain potential with any of the thunderstorms that develop. Temperatures to the south closest to the 90-degree mark. It will just depend on the timing and location of these thunderstorms. As you look at Thursday, I'm going to show you, watch the clock change, and what you don't see are any showers or thunderstorms popping up. It is the first of a few dry days in a row, which will take us into the 4th of July weekend. Upper 80s to around 90 Thursday afternoon. The 90-degree temperatures most likely in the western portion of the state. And we're just setting the stage then for where we go over the weekend with temperatures consistently this warm. Of course, this is no average weekend, 4th of July, but you've got the Grand Prix at 16th in Georgetown and then the Brickyard 400 on Sunday. Temperatures with humidity Friday hit 90. Some spots will be in the lower 90s, a mixture of clouds and sunshine. As we go to the weekend, temperatures both Saturday and Sunday in the low 90s, could be a little warmer to the south. That's really all we have to argue about, is how warm will it get. Early next week, our chance for thunderstorms returns Monday and Tuesday, but the temperatures at 90 degrees stay. Overnight temperatures don't really cool off much at all, sitting right around 70 degrees, 5 degrees above average for this time of year. And it looks like July, obviously, off to a warm start. It is typically the warmest month of the year, so no surprise there. Amanda?
And tomorrow, Indianapolis Mayor Joe Hogsett will announce a new program aimed at helping the economy bounce back as the pandemic continues. The mayor's office says the Economic Restart program will encourage residents to support and explore local restaurants, museums, cultural institutions, and more. City and community leaders will share details at 1. Look for updates on air and on our website, theindychannel.com. And Hiring Hoosiers is connecting you to job opportunities and career resources to help you get through this difficult time. We are working to learn details about an Amazon fulfillment center set to open in Whiteland in the coming weeks. The facility will be located at a new business park off of I-65 near Whiteland Road. The town says new employees will be hired, but did not say how many. We are also waiting for a response from Amazon about pay and benefits at the facility. And the military is making a major push to hire Hoosiers. The Army is working to recruit 10,000 new soldiers in 3 days starting today, and it's all part of the branch's first nationwide virtual hiring campaign. The men we talked to today say joining the Army was the best decision they have ever made.
You're also going to be looking at the possibility of using telecommunications, other wireless communications.
For 15 years, the Army has been the career home base for Sergeant First Class Jeffrey Regal.
And, here it is almost 15 years later, and I'm still in, love it. I've got that college paid for, got the degree hanging up on my wall at home, so. Yeah. It was a really good decision.
Joining the Army has opened job opportunities Sergeant Regal says usually comes as a surprise to others. With more than 150 different career paths, recruits can find almost anything they are interested in doing.
We have everything from the transportation field, the medical field. We have lots of jobs that revolve around the STEM field, just about whatever you want to do. On my last deployment to Afghanistan, I actually ran a forensic science lab in Afghanistan.
As an Army recruit, you will be trained both physically and mentally to learn the confidence and the skills needed to be a soldier in the United States Army. And with so many different individual career fields to choose from, they all also transpire to the civilian field.
Civilian side, I want to be in the fire service.
19-year-old Noblesville High School grad Jonathan Decker enlisted on May 18th and is waiting to go to boot camp next February.
I'm looking to become an officer. I'd love to go active and be a second lieutenant. And I want to get through college well, and the Army will really help me to do that and, get my career moving forward.
They are hiring full and part-time soldiers across 150 different career fields, ranging from traditional combat roles to support positions in accounting and finance, logistics, engineering, and technology. Special cash bonuses are being offered to those who enlist during this 3-day event. Army recruit Keegan Johnson is a busy man. He is pre-med at IUPUI, working on his bachelor's in science degrees in both biology and chemistry, while in the Army Reserve.
I volunteered for the service for a couple reasons. One, support my country. Two, build up my resume, leadership skills, training, and all the above. Three, the benefits offered by the Army and the military are top-notch. Absolutely. The health insurance is the best. You know, you don't get much better than that. Also, they help with my student loans and other things, and are really helping with continuing my education.
The U.S. Army is a good option for anyone who is looking for a career path and also has the calling to serve. For more info about what the Army says it can do for you and your career goals, go to hiringhoosiers.com. We'll be right back.
They started at holidayworld.com.
This is RTV6 News at 11, working for you.
A handful of Democrats and Republicans have now been briefed on intelligence reports claiming that Russian operatives put bounties on the lives of U.S. troops in Afghanistan. ABC's Andrew Dimbert reports lawmakers say there are still many unanswered questions and they're demanding answers.
Ignoring intel, Democrats in Congress demanding to know what President Trump knew and when he knew it regarding news reports that said intelligence reports allege the Russian military offered to pay Taliban fighters to kill U.S. and coalition troops in Afghanistan.
The allegation is true and the president did nothing about it. It's betrayal of the highest magnitude.
Both parties pushing for answers. This afternoon, some House Republicans forcefully condemned Russia, using much sharper language than the White House.
Any targeting of U.S. forces by Russians, by anyone else, will face a very swift and deadly response.
But House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy defended the Trump administration's record on Russia.
I will tell you it is his top priority.
The White House holding firm, claiming the president was not informed of the intelligence even since the story surfaced.
I will say this, the president was never briefed on this.
Overnight, the Associated Press reporting the Trump administration was aware of the Russian bounties even earlier, reporting that former National Security Advisor John Bolton had a briefing with the president exclusively on this topic back in March of 2019, though the meeting contained no actionable intelligence. Bolton declined to comment to the AP on their report. Meanwhile, the New York Times says the allegations about the Russian bounty was also included in the president's written daily briefing as recently as February of this year. The White House is calling into question the credibility of the intel.
This is a piece of intelligence information that had no consensus, has not been verified, still to this day.
Unverified intelligence gets put in front of presidents all the time. It's the nature of intelligence.
The AP reports that officials are focused on an April 2019 attack on American convoy where 3 U.S. Marines were killed. In total, 23 U.S. troops were killed in Afghanistan last year. It's not known if any of those deaths were targeted by the Taliban in relation to any alleged bounty paid by the Russians. Presumptive Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden is urging Congress to investigate.
Congress and the intelligence committees on the Congress, both parties should demand the facts.
A spokesperson for Russian President Vladimir Putin denies that Russian operatives offered payments to the Taliban in exchange for targeting U.S. coalition forces. Andrew Dimbert, ABC News, Washington.
MrPlumberIndy.com.
Well, Miami, Florida today hit 98, their second hottest temperature ever on record. We'll move to the 90s. Temperatures in the low 90s as we go to the weekend. Rain chances are low Friday, 4th of July, and on Sunday. Amanda?
Thank you for making RTV6 your choice for news. Good morning, Indiana. Starts at 4:30. Good night.